How are we doing this week? How has the week been? Wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining in again this week. My name is Morayo, and it is my pleasure and honor to be your host on our channel. Thank you for liking, for loving, for subscribing, for commenting, for sharing, for giving me feedback. It is out of the abundance of all these things that you're doing that is keeping us going, is keeping me going, and I'm super grateful. God bless you. So today I want to touch on a topic that rubs on me personally to an extent, to a good extent, right? And that topic is raising multicultural children or having a multicultural home.
It's B.O.G. on the beat.
So today we're going to be talking about raising a multicultural family. We are in a diverse age, we're in a diverse time. And this diversity is we owe it to not just technology and advancements, we owe it to the fact that people are migrating and moving from one place to the other. Here in Nigeria, we have had such a season, the Jackpot season. And people have gone from one end of the world to another end of the world. Forget out of the borders now, even within Nigeria, there has been a lot of shifting and moving. And to be honest, it did not help the diversity climate in this country, the recent elections that we had, because there was more division than bonding. But aside from that, and the impacts of that will last for a while, but aside from that, in this time and in this age, in comparison to before, we have more intertribal marriages, we have more interfaith marriages, I think. We have more intertribal, intercultural, interracial marriages, because there's just a lot of shifting and moving here and there. There's just a lot of shifting and changing and moving. So a lot of these relationships do not form with the thought that, we have to be conscious. Oh, my husband is going to be a different tribe or different this than me. And it's not a conscious thing when you fall in love. But the repercussions of love is the time that you start to sit down and you start to think about it more, deliberately. Let me explain. It wasn't until the time that we had to name my son, my first son, that it began to dawn on us that we were two different people from two different backgrounds, right? When I was pregnant with my first son, we had come up with different names. My husband had his names, I had my names, and then at the point of delivery, when he was delivered, we asked family members as well. We do that, to especially the grandparents, to honor them. We asked them to submit their own names. So my father-in-law submitted some of his own names. My dad submitted his own names, and a few uncles and aunties here and there submitted names. I think that is more of a Yoruba culture, giving a lot of names to children than the Igbos. So at least in that area, I think I rubbed off on my husband. Then it was time for the names to be on the birth certificate. And the names that my husband was going to choose, I think it was even subconsciously was telling me that he was going to just give him the name he gave him, the name my father-in-law gave him. The two names that he gave him, because he had given him an Igbo name and an English name. And then my father-in-law had given him another Igbo name. And I said, pause, hold on, excuse me, do you want to eradicate my culture from this baby's life? And he's like, I don't get it. He's my son. I'm the father. And I'm like, yes, he's your son. You're the father. But can you take a look at the other, at that point, I had to kind of guilt trip him before he could see. Can you see your friends? The this, the that? Can you see how they named their children? You do not remove, you do not eradicate my culture because you are the father of that child. And the truth is that once a child is born, that child has a third culture that is a mixture of both of our cultures. So there's such a thing as third culture in a home. And it's not the father's culture. It's not the mother's culture. It's a mixture of both cultures. And from that time on, we began to be more conscious, to be more conscious of how we were integrating both cultures. Needless to say that he removed one of the names that he had given him, one of the Igbo names, and replaced it with the name that I had given him. So Joshua's names now became Joshua Tireniolua, which was the name that I gave him, and then the name his grandfather gave him is Uchuku Ahunaya. And when it came to naming our second boy as well, his father gave him the primary name, Ezekiel. Then the second name was the name that I gave him, Olutito. And then the third name was the name that, his grandparents from his father's end gave him as well, Chimerimezi, just honor. And then Ahunaya was now the surname. And you would not believe that the day my husband went to register my second son's name at the census board here in Port Harcourt, at the main place. There are two places that is done that we know. There's one that is done at the census, the national census, etc. And there's one that is done at OBO Cottage. So when he went to the census, the main census board, there was the person that was registering, the people that were registering were Igbo people, two Igbo people. And then they just started talking rubbish. It pissed my husband off. Basically, what they were insinuating is that you're an Igbo man. Why are you allowing your wife to, give your child, a name that is not Igbo, etc., etc. Those kinds of thoughts. You're an Igbo man. You don't even need to have an English name. And my husband is a relatively gentle person. So that's why I think that, you can even mention some of those things to him, because on a normal day, it's none of your business. But Nigerians can be, we're a community, so we like to have an opinion on things, even when it is none of our business. And he came back home that day, and he further said, you know what, now it's clearer, I can understand to an extent, those kinds of things that you were saying. Unconsciously, we do not take into account, some people, not all, some people do not take into account in an intercultural marriage, the culture of the wife. Sometimes it's like that. But the truth is that that child, whether you like it or not, whether the husband or wife, is a combination of both of you. So my son isn't just Igbo. My two sons aren't just Igbo. They are Igbo Yoruba boys. That is the reality of things, right? And how are we going to be raising our Igbo Yoruba boys? How are we raising them? Now, I look at my own background, and that was how I began to reflect. I look at my own background, and I am from an interfaith background. My father is Muslim. My mother was Christian. She's late now. And growing up, it was relatively easy because we did everything. We did everything. And I had this discussion with one of my egbons last week, one of my egbons that I cherish, Pastor Olufemi. God bless you, sir. He called me after, we posted that video on postnatal libido, and we had a discussion. In fact, it was from the discussion that we had that I decided to address this today and to bring it before us. And he was like, you guys these days, you're so sensitive. you were so passionate talking about postnatal libido, and he said he's seen a lot of, because a pastor, he counsels a lot of people. He's seen a lot of women these days are so passionate. And I said, sir, that's the way forward. We have to loud our voice, because it's like our mothers were not talking back in the days. And it's like, maybe that's why a lot of things were relatively easier. Their intercultural marriages were easier. Their interfaith marriages were easier. And even you guys did not notice growing up. And I said, how did I actually grow up? How did we grow up? I don't think it was just my mom that was compromising in the interfaith marriage that they had. But I think my mom did a lot more compromising than my father did. Because though my mom would never go to the mosque, my father would also not go to the church. But guess what? My father would drop my mom in the church. Almost every, if not every Sunday, he would drop her in the church. He would drop me in church, even in school. And he has come to the church that I was in, Covenant Christian Center. He had come there once. The day his wife died, I took him to church. And my mom would not go to the mosque, but the children, their offspring, all of us would attend both the mosque and the church, especially during festivities. My two brothers did Wolima. Wolima is like when you have read the Quran through, and you are now a guru in Quran, in the Arabic learning, etc. And they do a celebration for it. We had lesson teachers that were coming to the house to teach us, the Quran and Arabic. And we used to go to church as well. We used to do Sunday school. We used to do everything growing up. My Muslim name is Miriam. And there are a set of people that still know me as Miriam till date. There are a set of people that know me, on the other hand, as a Christian girl. And in reality, I am a Christian now, but growing up, I am a mixture of the two faiths. I'm a mixture of, I cannot erase it from my background. It's who I am, right? And so I began to reflect on my background as well, and I began to say, there are things that I cannot erase from the background of my children. So I had to be deliberate, and I had to look back and think, what are the things that I like about my culture? What are the things I like about my husband's culture? There's so many things I like about our individual cultures, and there's some things that I do not like, and I'm going to just share them, not to offend anybody, and these are just my opinions, but again, we're just discussing, right? So I really like that in my culture, there's respect. In comparison to my husband's culture, I feel that we're more respectful people, even though that respect can come with hypocrisy. I feel like we're more diplomatic people as well. And those are some of the values that I would like to pass on to my children: the respect in the culture and the diplomacy in the culture. On the other hand, the thing that I like is not exactly the thing that is on the other hand for my husband, but there's two ways to the coin. They may not be as respectful in my husband's tribe. They are respectful, but they are not as subservient, I think that's the word, in my husband's tribe as it is in my tribe. But they are very honest people. They are very frank people. I love the frankness. I love the boldness of the culture. And I love the grace that the Igbo person has. The Igbo person is not someone that, you can step on. No. The Igbo person is not someone you can shove or push around. They are people that are very, very, they're like natural born leaders. To me, this is my opinion. And they are very proud of their culture and their heritage. Even though I also feel that Yorubas are very proud of their culture and heritage as well. You, as a Yoruba person, you know, Yoruba, you will know. You will know. So I love that about the two cultures, but I don't like that my husband's culture is not as respectful. So once in a while, myself and my husband, we have these discussions, because we're building a family. We have to have family goals. We have to have family values. And family values, we one of the first things that we decided is that we are our ultimate tribe is the tribe of the Lion of Judah. That is our tribe, our number one tribe. We're both Christians. We're people first, yes, but we're Christians. And that now surpasses any other thing, any other culture. Because culture is beautiful. And what is culture even? Culture is all the information about a particular sect of people, about a particular clan or community. It's all the information. It's how they eat, it's how they talk, it's how they express themselves, even to how they walk. It's the language, it's the food, it's the dressing, is the thinking, the ideas. There are some ideas of how things should be that my husband's people have that we don't have in my own side. There's just a difference in how we think sometimes about some things. Even with our naming, with the the culture around naming, with our partying, there's just a difference to how we think, even though there are many common things. And some of those things were the things that attracted my husband and myself to ourselves. But there are also things that sometimes repel us from ourselves. Okay, so I feel that I've heard that there are 3 stages of a relationship. And these 3 stages, they are very, very, let me just talk about them. So the first stage is the falling in love. When you're falling in love, when you're seeing those things that aren't exactly similar to you and you're loving them and you're liking them, right? And you're seeing those things that are similar as well and you're like, ooh, nice. Because in reality, if you are with someone that is absolutely the same as you are, then your reality and your relationship would be predictable and boring. It will be sad to an extent if you're with someone that is exactly like you. But then again, you have to marry someone that is similar to you, I feel and I think. Not someone that is a opposite, you are totally opposite. No, you have to share some similarities to be able to live together. And then I think after you fall in love, I absolutely believe in, fall in love in the will of God. Yeah? As a Christian, Bible says do not be unevenly yoked with unbelievers. Do not be unevenly yoked. So it's not necessarily about tribe for us. The most important thing is that you both come from the tribe of the Lion of Judah, as I've said before. But it's about every other thing. The most important thing is that you guys are both Christians and you share, not just Christians, you are Christians on a similar level. But that's talk for another day. And then the second thing is the second phase in relationships is the adjustment stage. Probably after you've married, then you're adjusting to one another. And people really find some years of marriage very stressful. The first year, people are adjusting to one another and they realize that, no, this is not what I bargained for. This person is so dissimilar from me. Can I really be married to this person? We've also had that moment, but it wasn't as brash. I guess because of our temperaments, my husband and I's temperaments. I've always liked him. He's always liked me. But there are times when, like, I've noticed some things in him and I'm like, gosh. So one of the reasons why my husband liked me and why I liked him was that, in fact, one of the first conversations we had, the first time we ever spoke on the phone, I said, my guy, you're too slow. And he said, you're too zippy. That was one of the first things. Till date, we laugh about it. And that thing, we still fight about it to an extent to today. Sometimes I just feel my husband is too laid back. I want him to do something, chap, 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 chap. He will just be slowly moving, his legs moving. You can hear the slippers on the floor. And I'm like, oh, God of Israel. And for him, sometimes I'm too loud. Sometimes I'm too impatient. I'm too rushed or rushing. For him, yes, sometimes it's like, can you just calm down? Can you not shout like that? Can you reduce your voice? He's irritated by it, honestly and sincerely, and he will voice it out. But those were the things that we liked about each other. Those were the things that, in quotes, attracted, or those differences attracted us to each other, right? And even culture-wise, there are some things unconsciously about the way I've grown up that has influenced the person that I am, that he likes, that he enjoys. And there's some things about the person that he is and the culture and the background that he came from that he likes, that has influenced the person that he is. So what we are trying to do is to consciously think about those things and to consciously bring them together and then apply them to raising our sons. Another thing in raising a multicultural family is language. I think for me, and we established it last week, functional communication is the baseline, is the foundation, is the bedrock of any solid relationship. So, for us at least, language is very important. And language isn't just verbal. My husband and I speak the same language on many things. Aside from the basic verbal language, which the number one strong language that we speak in this house is English. I speak Yoruba a lot. People that are around me, they call me Yoruba Ninja. And my husband can understand Yoruba. But our basic communication that is done in this house, we do it in English. We speak English to ourselves and to our children. Right? Even though I want to now begin to integrate that aspect. I really like my husband's language. I like Igbo. I like languages in general. At the point I was learning Mandarin Chinese. Ni hao. Everybody knows that, right? But I went to Confucius Institute in University of Lagos, and I almost wrote the HSK1. It's just I clashed with my exams at that time, my master's exams as at the time, so I couldn't write it. But I'm someone who loves languages, so I really like my husband's language, but I've not been opportune to learn it because he doesn't even speak his language. His parents did not train them in speaking language. And I've told my husband that my boys are going to speak Igbo. I'm probably going to look for a lesson teacher, and it's going to have to be deliberate. It's going to be conscious. And as for Yoruba, I speak Yoruba very well. My boys are going to hear Yoruba. But sometimes out of honor for my husband, for the fact that, they do not know how to speak their father's language, I tone down on the amount of Yoruba I speak to them. I tone it down just out of honor and respect. I don't know if that is a good thing, unconscious thing, whatever it is, but I do that, right? But language is a very important part of culture. Communication is a very important part of culture. And I think I should be wrapping up my discussion because I'm going on and on and on, right? So, how are you guys going to, do we have anybody here that is, first of all, in an intercultural relationship, intertribal, interfaith, interracial? Anybody? How are you guys grooming your family in light of that background? How are you raising your children in light of that? How are you doing it? You know, I've heard of, and I've researched on a few ways to raising multicultural children. As I said, number one, language is very important. So you try to introduce it to them any way that you can. Speak it to them. Put it in their names. Put it in their names, one of their names or their main names. Speak it to them. Introduce it in their games. Introduce it in their books. Introduce it in their music. introduce it in their interaction. Thankful for the schools that do cultural day. So what I've said and what my husband has said is that year by year we rotate it. So the last cultural day that Joshua had, he wore the Igbo attire. That's his first cultural day. So he's going to go as his father's Pekin. The next cultural day is going as his mother's Pekin. Maybe Chimeremeze will go as his father's Pekin. Do you understand? That's Ezekiel. So we're going to be rotating it. We're going to let them know that they come from two cultures. We're going to have an active third culture in this home. And so help us God, because there's a lot to it than just speaking. And for the general climate of the country, I really hope that things get better, So much damage has been done by the political parties to the bond of the tribes in this nation. I don't know how it will be fixed. I don't know how they will fix it, but I think as a people, we need to be more reflective. We are first a people before we are descendants of our tribes. And there's a beauty, even though there are pros and cons to everything, there's more beauty to culture than there is ugliness. With these few points of mine, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's discussion. I look forward to your comments, and yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Remember to like, to share, to comment, to subscribe. Love you guys.